Here we go. So Erik's work ranges from residential projects, golf club houses, boutique resorts, and restaurants. And here is Erik.
Good
Hello,
morning.
Erik. How are you?
Good, Mark. How are you?
Wonderful. So I was just completing your bio. So I was just telling them about your work. Erik's also the recipient of numerous industry awards, including the Golden Nugget Awards, the Best in American Living, Lux Magazine Red Awards, and many, many more. He also sits on the board of Scottsdale Public Arts, the Arizona Opera Board, and continues to mentor students at the Frank Lloyd Wright School of Architecture. So good morning and welcome, Erik.
Thank you so much. Excited to be here. I've enjoyed watching you all these Fridays through the summer months.
Oh, thank you. You know, this last thing that I just said, you mentor students at the Frank Lloyd Wright School of Architecture. That sort of touches my heart because I also lecture at UCLA and talk to the students and try and advise them and give them direction. I think it's very honorable that people, as they become successful, help young people starting out to give them just the information that they really need to know to start their career.
Absolutely. I mean, that's been something that's been important to me from my schooling, where a lot of my professors were practicing architects. And that had a very big influence on me. And so as I started working at Taliesin Architects, they also had the Frank Lloyd Wright School of Architecture there. And I often enjoyed walking into the studio and helping them with their projects. And through the years, we've hired numerous apprentices to start their careers with our firm and then send them off into the architectural world.
Yeah, the wild world of architecture. Well,
Yeah.
that's very admirable.
Thank you.
You and I were fortunate enough to speak together at the Armani Casa showroom several months back, I guess.
Yes, a beautiful event, beautiful showroom.
Yeah, it was great, and it was an honor to be on the board with you. And
Thank
afterwards,
you.
I did a little research and just discovered more about you and what an immense talent you are.
Thank you.
So it's nice to have you here, and today is a rather special day for you. So it's not just your birthday today, which I can't believe you're joining us on your birthday. It's your 50th birthday.
That is correct. And I'm kind of shocked to say those numbers because I never thought that, like, when I heard my dad say that he was 50, I thought, oh my gosh, he's so old. And I don't feel that old, but I decided to take the day off and was going to be home anyways, doing pretty much nothing except relaxing. And so when you offered me this day, I thought, what a great time to celebrate.
Oh, well, that's great. Thanks, Erik.
Yes,
so
thank you.
What was it that introduced you into the world of architecture? How did you get started? What was your inspiration?
Yeah, great question. It was really nobody in my family was an architect. Nobody even really knew what architecture sort of was. And, growing up in Chicago, of course, I was very much inspired by, Louis Sullivan and Frank Lloyd Wright and seeing all these amazing pieces of architecture going up around me. But it was really a very interesting thread. My mother would always watch PBS live from the Met, and I would watch these operas with her. She'd call me in and she'd say, you have to see these amazing sets. You may not like the music, but let's look at the sets. And they were all the Franco Zeffirelli productions at the Met, which were unbelievable, beautiful sets. And it drew me in. I was just inspired by that. And sure enough, when I went to high school, we had an amazing show group, and I was able to join the stage crew. And I started designing all the sets for that and building them, and eventually being the stage director for all of our productions at Maine South High School in Park Ridge, Illinois. And that really launched my career in knowing that I really wanted to design. And I think that satisfaction of the curtain going up and hearing the applause just for the sets that we had designed was just very, very special.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm a great fan of the opera. So a little later in our conversation, I'd like to go back to this because I think this is a very interesting subject.
That'd be great.
So your offices, you're based out of Scottsdale, Arizona, and you have offices in Beverly Hills.
Yes, that's right.
And
We've got 30 employees total, 28 out of our Scottsdale headquarters and two in Beverly Hills.
right. And your work is primarily residential or primarily commercial or a combination of both?
Yeah, right now we're about 50-50 on luxury residential, but also hospitality. So resorts, golf clubhouses, and restaurants.
Right. So I know, I know in speaking to you, and I have friends that have worked with you, and they've just said wonderful things about you. I know as a designer, I always I'm looking for an architect who is looking for a collaboration, who is looking for an exchange of ideas, and there's an energy between everybody. And it's so great when you can get a team of people together like that to work together. And I know that's sort of your motto to also.
Yes, that's right. We love the collaboration. I love to bring everybody in right from the very start. I think it just gives the client a better end product when all of the pieces sort of mesh together. It's not like, oh, here's the house, and then an interior designer came in and did their own thing, and the landscape architect came in and did their thing. But through those very first few months of the back and forth with the client, to have everybody in the room together in that interaction back and forth of what if we did this and what if we did that, and that just produces that magic that creates that house
Yes.
that's so special.
And the end result is magic for the client. That
Exactly.
ultimately is our goal.
Yes.
So your work ranges from luxury residential to contemporary to traditional.
Yes, that's right. And
Right.
mostly right now, we've been interestingly starting to do more contemporary work post recession.
Hmm.
Prior to that, we were in that big sort of, Tuscan world where everybody coming in was asking for some
Right.
sort of Tuscan. So if there was one good thing out of the recession, we sort of got rid of that need from our clients.
Right. Now you do a lot of work in the Southwest.
Yes,
So,
primarily from Texas through California and as
right.
far north as Montana. And
And I know one of the terms that you used is regionalism, with building site appropriate and using native materials. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
yeah, sure. So this is something that's real important to me, and it's came out of sort of the organic architecture
Hmm.
teaching that Frank Lloyd Wright had done. But it's more about building homes and buildings that are of the space, of the place. So if you notice Wright's work, the work that he did in the Midwest is very different from the work that he did in
Hmm.
California. And when you look at it, you notice that there's a difference. And so that's very important to me because the materials that we use in Arizona, which would be native rock and copper in deep overhangs to deal with our shadows, the sun control, that's going to be a very different type of house that we would do in California, and a very different house that we would do, let's say, in Hawaii.
Sure.
So when you see that, it then puts a building in the location that it comes from, and it
Right.
helps tell the story.
Well, I know a lot of architects, wherever they build, it's their style, and that's what they build. So
Right.
I
And
know.
you have architects like Frank Gehry who you pay to get his look.
Look,
And therefore, when you see it, you say, oh, there's a Frank Gehry. Our
right,
look is more about of the place and of the client. So it doesn't really become a statement of me.
right, right. So tell us about some of the current projects that you're working on, Erik. I know you mentioned that you're working in Park City, Montana, Newport Beach, etc. So tell us a little bit about your current projects.
Yeah, well, we're just so blessed to be able to do the type of work that we do. And we work with some unbelievable, people that we could do such great houses for. Many of those we're not able to disclose of, but we're so lucky to also be able to do a lot of the clubhouses in resorts, and that those projects become public and are just so special. We're working with Phil Mickelson up in Calgary at his new clubhouse. We're doing a wonderful new gastropub that's going to be in honor of Jack Nicklaus at one of the first golf clubs that he's done in Scottsdale. It's going to be called Jack's, and it's going to have Jack in the Box because it's one of his favorite
You're kidding.
snacks to snack on.
Is it
So it's
really?
just such a great, it's so much fun to like be a part of these projects. But one of my most famous or most excited about projects right now is the Biltmore Hotel here in Phoenix, which was an apprentice of Frank Lloyd Wright, very
Yes.
heavily influenced by Frank Lloyd Wright. And some say, including Wright, that some of it possibly was direct Frank Lloyd Wright design. But we're reimagining it right now and bringing it back to life with some new pieces. And we're working with such great designers like SFA and Therese Versarius out of New York, and creating some unbelievable new spaces for it and bringing back the elegance of some of the original spaces.
Right. So how do you bring a building? It was designed what, in 1929? Is that
Yes.
right? And how do you bring that up to code and make it relevant today and still keep its integrity?
Yeah, well, you know, over the years, a lot of the ownership did not want to do anything that was related to that. They just sort of did what they wanted to do. And this ownership group really wanted to respect what was there and honor it, because it is one of the main draws of why everybody wants to go
That's
to this
sure.
location. And it being a Waldorf Astoria, it certainly has to have a certain level of quality that the Waldorf Astoria clientele is looking for. So we have to bring things up in sort of the spirit. And so lighting and textures and quality of the experience certainly has to be there. And of course, all the code updates have to be there. But we have to do it in a way that not only respects the work that was done, not copies the work that was done, or not try to be another Frank Lloyd Wright. And so some of it, and I could even just show you maybe a little example of it as a sneak
Okay.
preview. But this is the bar that we're going to be doing, and this is part of what Vesurious Design is helping us with. So it definitely has the influence of some of the things that Wright would have done as far as patterns and texture, but it brings to it sort of a modernism of today that is something sort of new and fresh. And then we're creating an outdoor environment that is going to have this huge covered shade structure in this unbelievable bar. So
That's
when
spectacular.
200 people come out of the convention center to rush the bar, they're not coming into this historic, beautiful gem of a lobby, but they're coming out to our new event pavilion that sits outside. And then from there, you get to look back at that amazing facade that that was created.
Well, it must be an honor to work on something that's historic and you know, it's an icon in
It
architecture.
is.
Yeah,
Yes.
congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
So,
That should be done by the end of this year. So look for that to be announced, you know, worldwide.
okay, well, I'll look for it. I'll have to visit. When I
Yes, we'd
know you're
love that.
there, I'd love you to give me a tour through the place.
I will definitely. And we'll be hopefully doing a project together. So that
Well,
would
I
be
hope so.
great to have that.
So, Erik, are there any architects whose works that inspire you or works that you admire, dead or alive? I mean, who? I mean, obviously Frank Lloyd Wright is been
Yes, yeah.
influential in
Louis
your
Sullivan,
career.
I think even before that. And Louis
Uh-huh.
Sullivan is who really created um, uh, Frank Lloyd Wright. He worked in his office as an apprentice and
Hmm.
learned from him. And so sort of all of that sort of Chicago school of architecture was all of those architects were big influences on me. But as I moved into the West and was studying at Taliesin and understanding sort of a new group of, you know, Fay Jones, for an example, or John Lautner, and the work of the architects that had left Taliesin to go on and do new things, not just copy sort of
Hmm.
what Frank Lloyd Wright had done. They have opened my eyes to sort of a new sort of organic architecture of today and a modernism. And certainly, you know, in the work that we've done, you know, Adam Tahani, you know, an amazing designer in the hospitality world, just does unbelievable restaurant concepts. So those type of people who just constantly keep influencing us with the types of projects that they're producing day in and day out are just very exciting.
Yeah,
And
there's so many visionaries in the world of design and architecture, and it's always evolving and it's exciting. I'm very much a classicist, so
yes,
I think it's in my bones. It's my Italian nature. So
yes,
I've always adored the work of Andrea Palladio,
yes.
and he's was the great Renaissance architect. And
Well,
I
of
mean,
course, we're
we're
both
still,
Virgos,
yeah,
and his work is so perfectly
it's
aligned
perfectly
in its shape.
balanced. It's
I
beautifully
love that you said
executed.
that.
And I know that recently I was doing a little reference work and I came upon the Barcelona pavilion that Mies van der Rohe designed in, was it 1925 or 1929?
Yeah, unbelievable building.
Yeah. And, I had forgotten, and I was looking at this building and I was just blown away by the simplicity and the purity and the beauty of this building. It's as clean as anything that's being done today. And what a visionary to have created that 100 years ago.
Yes,
And the number of people that's influenced.
yes,
So I know I'm always inspired. I love architecture. It's one of my passions. And I also love the work of like Calatrava. I think he does
yes,
great things. And then when you were talking about, people who are influential and visionaries, Zaha Hadid came to mind
yeah,
because I know that when she started, she was, based out of London, I guess. And she didn't get a lot of things built. But then when she finally got going, what they were producing, what I thought was remarkable. And unfortunately, she died at a young age. But I've
yes,
noticed that her studios are producing some very, very fascinating advanced architecture and
yes,
very
amazing.
organic, right?
That's right. Yeah, amazing stories surrounding that. Uh, Prior to the whole COVID, the Frank Lloyd Wright and Taliesin architecture students were putting on these amazing lecture programs. And about well, the day that Zaha had passed away was the night Frank Gehry was going to be first time ever at Taliesin West to give his talk with Aaron Betsky. And the evening turned into a wonderful conversation between Frank and Aaron, talking about their friendship with Zaha. And it was the most touching and moving experience to be in that small, intimate
Right.
space
Uh-huh.
with Frank, tears coming up and just hearing that description in one of Wright's buildings. It was a marvelous evening, and she was an amazing talent,
Yes.
and in the inspiration of her projects continue to keep rolling out, and it's wonderful to see.
Well, it's great to have people like this influencing us. So, where do you see the world of architecture heading in the future?
Good question. Well, I want to
That's a
touch.
tough one, I know.
Yes, I'll go back just on the influencing of, and it's funny you mentioned Barcelona Pavilion, because one of the projects I was going to bring up to you today was one that was influenced off the Barcelona Pavilion, which is one we're doing in Park City, Utah, and that's this one here, and you can see some of
Yes.
that influence
Uh-huh.
in the building of it, and it's sort of taking that pavilion and making it sort of a mirrored reflection of itself. And I think it's important for architects to be influencers. And I think it's difficult to sort of project what that future is going to be. But I think it's an important position that architects take a front role in influencing and shaping our future and our cities.
Yeah.
And without that, we take a back seat into what our communities and what our cities look like. Everything you experience every day as you move throughout our lives, it
Yes.
revolves around architecture,
Sure.
and it affects our health, and it affects our emotions and our mental state. And if we go through life living in sort of dull and dreary buildings, then our health
Yes.
reflects that. And I think in all things based out of the COVID situation is that everybody is looking for a more healthier lifestyle, healthier living, not only physically, but mentally.
Right. They're
And
looking for places and spaces that inspire, because
absolutely.
your homes and your offices are places that you need to nurture you. They
Yes.
need to be places of inspiration. A lot of people, I don't know that they're always as conscious maybe as that we are, what a profound effect the space you're in has on your mental state.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of funny because the people who are around me, especially my family and kids, they've been around me now so many times, driving through or walking through buildings and noticing things, and I get a kick out of it now when my daughter, who's 15, will mention something and she'll say, well, the scale of this room is off, or I don't understand why that fascia is there, and I do a double take, like, did you just say that?
Right. Let's see, you've had a great effect on her. That's
Yes.
good. So, how has technology assisted you in how you work today?
Yeah, well, technology has just been spectacular. We have been using this, Zoom technology of doing phone calls distant for at least, 5 years. With our offices in Scottsdale, most of our clientele are coming from the Midwest, Europe, wherever, and they don't always have the opportunity to come into town and meet with us. So we've been doing these meetings, in that fashion for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually helped even more now that everybody is becoming so familiar with this technology, and it's becoming such a secondary, way of communicating that, or I should say primary way of communicating, that everybody is very comfortable with it. And so it helps with our golf clubhouse clients so that we're not racking up bills, flying all over the country to meet with them. We could design and do all of our work for them very easily right from our offices and join in with a whole team of people from all over the country. The hotel work has been going that way for a long time because many of their executives are in all the different states. So it's really a great way. And then, of course, with SketchUp and the 3D technology, that's an amazing way for us
Tremendous, yeah.
to show this work to our clients so they could experience it in a much different way than just a rendering.
Right. I remember many years ago when Frank Gehry was doing the Disney Music Hall downtown Los Angeles. I was invited by the design team to come down, and they walked me through it. And I remember going through the construction trailers, and it was just trailer after trailer and just room after room of drawings.
Yes.
And buildings like that, buildings like what we talked about, Zaha Hadid
Yes.
and Calatrava, they couldn't have built that without the technology and computers that we have today. So
yes, they heavily rely on it, especially Frank
right.
Gehry. If you've ever seen some of the documentaries about how they work, and
Uh-huh.
every piece has got to be, those complex shapes and structurally just have to be, computed on a computer so that they can figure out every single turn and angle and bolt location, which was pretty much physically impossible to do just by hand.
Yes.
Our work's a little bit more simple, thank God.
Yeah.
that when I walk through some of these airports and museums and libraries, it's just really unbelievable and such inspiring work. But
Right.
we like to work at a little bit more different scale, and it allows us to turn around work a lot faster as well, which is very exciting.
So I know that you have a couple of things you're very passionate about, and travel, classical music, and as we spoke earlier, the world of opera. As I said, there happened to be a passion of mine also. So if we can go back to that for a moment, I'd like to talk to you about it, because I just recently learned that your ultimate goal is to design stage sets for the great opera houses of the world. And that was a little surprising, but I loved hearing that.
Yes. No, well, since it started, in that world, watching it with my mom, and then I did develop a love for opera, especially Puccini and the Mozart operas, that I sort of like the romantic music and operas. So it's funny, I had done an article in a magazine, and they had published that, and the local Arizona Opera director and board reached out to me and said, well, we'd love to help you achieve your goals. We'd love to have you join the opera board and start you in your career towards, the opera. And that has been a very special and wonderful relationship for me to learn about opera. Many of the people involved with the Arizona Opera have been working with the Met. And so to have those connections, I hope that in my retirement years, long time in the future, that it would be just a wonderful experience to be invited by the greatest opera houses to do a opera at each of the greats and design the sets and then move on to the next city. I think that'd just be a wonderful way to live out my retirement.
Well, that's very exciting. So one of the places I know that in Vicenza, Italy,
Yes.
is the great Palladio building, the Teatro Olimpico.
Amazing.
And it is an amazing building. You visited there.
Yeah, well, I studied from Iowa State back in '91. I studied in Rome. And so, I mean, to be able to be in Rome as a student and travel all throughout Italy, I went to every major opera house and got a tour. I couldn't afford usually to go to the operas, but Vincenzo being one of my favorite cities, being like we talked about, a Virgo, I love the order and the cleanliness of such a perfected city. And this arena, which is sort of like a mini Coliseum, is an unbelievable outdoor opera experience. And Aida, Verdi's Aida, is probably the major opera that they do there and have done there almost every year. That's a great thing to see, and it's on my bucket list for sure. Have you seen an opera there, Mark?
At the Teatro Olimpico?
Yes.
No, I've never seen a live opera there. I've been there many times because I love to just sit in the theater and look at the detailing. And the last time I went, my partner Fred was with me, and we must have been in there for an hour and a half. He was just busy taking pictures, and it's overwhelming. This is a building that, unfortunately, Palladio never saw completed. So I know it's considered one of his greatest works, along with the Villa Rotondo, which he also didn't see completed.
Spectacular
and I
building.
think Scamozzi, Vincenzo Scamozzi, was the one that finished the Teatro Olimpico, the sets on that. And if everyone listening is not familiar with it, you can Google the Teatro Olimpico in Vicenza, Italy.
Yes.
It's just a stunning interior, and the sets were designed in the 15th century.
Yeah.
They still exist. I think it's the oldest living stage set in the world, and it's still currently used several times a year.
Yes.
So
my favorite though is the Paris Opera House for sure.
Yes,
Garnier's.
the Paris Opera House is breathtaking.
I could go back there over and over again every trip to Paris and just find something new and see something and just be drawn away. My family or whoever I'm with usually has to pull me out.
Yeah. Now, there's a lot of people that don't particularly care for opera, but let me say that you don't need to be an opera fan to go into these buildings. The beauty and the brilliance, the architectural brilliance is just beyond, isn't it?
Absolutely. And they're still continuing to inspire. I mean, look at the Sydney Opera House. I mean, that gets alone, thousands and thousands of visitors every year that most likely don't know opera or like opera, but that building is certainly an inspiration. And I think opera houses is a place where that inspiration that architects could bring is evident. It's something, not only is the music inspiring, but the whole production of opera, but the building itself could yet also be a place of inspiration.
Well, that building architecturally is really the symbol of Australia.
Yeah.
It is.
Absolutely.
It's what everybody refers to when they think of Australia.
Yes.
Much like they think of France and they think of the Eiffel Tower.
Yes.
And he was chastised when that was built. They nearly stoned him to death.
That's right.
And now it's, it's an international symbol for Paris and for France. So architecture is a very, very powerful and profound art.
Yes, it is. And it's an amazing profession. I thank God every day that I'm doing this, because it doesn't feel like a job. It feels just like an honor to be a part of these amazing projects and work with such amazing people that have the vision and the dedication to do great works, and be able to work with talented people like yourself. It's just such a fun way to live life.
It is. And it's also great that you can share this and see the joy in your clients when a project is completed. It's the ultimate rush.
Well, many times, you know, we see the clients and they move in and they're very happy and you do the big party or whatever. But even more for me, I really enjoy on the hospitality side being able to come back to these restaurants and resorts that we work on and secretly sort of go through the building and sit there and just watch as people who have no clue, you know, that I did anything to it, but just see them experience the space or enjoy the space or just move through it and watch their eyes or watch their facial expression. That to me is a lot of the real joy of the
Yes.
creation of architecture.
Yes. So, Erik, what is the best way for somebody to locate you and learn about you?
Everything's on our website, and that's www.phxarch.com. And then you could also find us on our Instagram account, which is the same, PHXARCH. And all of our information is there. And we're in Scottsdale, Arizona, and in Beverly Hills, right between Saks and Neiman's. So you could do your shopping and jump in and say hi to us at the same time.
And tell us what you're going to do for your 50th birthday. Does your wife and children have plans for you today?
Yes. Well, you know, it's a little bit of a different time for celebrating. So my wife was going to plan a large party for my 50th, and we're not able to do that. So I think it even might be better. We're doing lots of little parties. So I call it the month of celebrating. We've had already a few small dinner parties over the last week. And tonight we're just going to have my sister and her family and my mom over and let it be another small gathering with my favorite Chicago pizza. And then as the week goes on and most likely the month goes on, we'll do small little gatherings with a lot of my favorite friends and family that we'll be celebrating with. So it's a month of celebrating.
Oh, wonderful. Congratulations, Erik.
Thank you.
This was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed visiting with you. Thank you
Same.
for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I hope to see you in person soon, walking by the building as you
Great.
normally do.
Okay.
All right.
You,
take
Erik.
care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.